Hey everyone, it's Representative Puri here, getting ready for our February coffee hour. I just want to thank everyone for joining. Today is February 28th. It is my niece's birthday, so happy birthday to Nikki. Happy 12th birthday to Nikki. But again, just want to thank everyone for joining. Sorry we're a little bit delayed here. I thought I had everything figured out, and then the dog started barking, and I had to take them out real quick, but I think we got that and the technical stuff ready to go. So let's get this show on the road. Hope everyone had a wonderful weekend. We were really busy in District 21, had a number of events around town. It's nice that the weather's turning slightly, and so I was able to do a couple things in person. We had an event with Congresswoman Dingell, which was great here at our local arts partnership warehouse factory here in Canton, which turned out to be great. Also had a chance to sit down with the Rotary Club and the Kiwanis in a joint meeting to talk about school safety, which is a conversation that is top of mind for a lot of us right now. And then also had a chance to attend a retirement party for Public Safety Director Greg Lauren from Van Buren Township. So congratulations on your 40 years of service, and wish you all the best on your next chapter. But with that, it's a special week here because tomorrow is Fat Tuesday. So for all of us here in Michigan, especially southeastern Michigan, I think we're all excited to go to our local bakeries and find our favorite punchkis around town. Would absolutely love it if you could send me suggestions on where you go and your go-to spot here in District 21. There's a number of bakeries, some that have their own little twists. So look forward to tomorrow, which will break the diet a little bit for that. So it's always a fun time of year. It's been a heavy couple days. There's obviously a lot in the news that's happening, especially internationally. And so, do want to take a second to recognize all the events that are transpiring, again, throughout the world, especially in Ukraine. I feel absolutely terrible for everyone that's been displaced. We are reminded just about how precious life is, and our duty to treat each other with respect. And that should mean something for everyone, and how we should be treating everyone with equality and equity across the world, regardless of where you come from. But all of us deserve our human rights, regardless, again, where you're at. And so obviously my thoughts are on a peaceful resolution to everything that's happening, and because some of the images that we see are absolutely horrific. So again, that is very much on our mind, and something that we are thinking about and finding ways to be helpful. So again, for those that have not joined one of our virtual coffee hours, we are broadcasting live on all of our social media platforms. So that's Facebook and Twitter and YouTube. And I think that's it. But if you're having any technical difficulties, please feel free to put it in the chats. All the chats are monitored by our team, and so we are fielding questions. If you can't hear us, just anything. We're also doing this in the evening because we do like to kind of mix our days and times around to make sure that we can find something that fits everyone's schedules. So we also, at a minimum, would just love your feedback. If you can say hi, let us know you're watching. Let us know if this time works or doesn't work. If you're watching this, after we record it. So appreciate everyone's feedback and engagement. We love answering everyone's question. Again, this is the point in our coffee hour where I put in a shameless plug for our newsletter, which is something that we produce bi-weekly. It's put together by my team in Lansing, and they do a fantastic job of just corralling all of kind of the community's news, Lansing news, and putting it together in one spot for you to quickly consume and get up to date with everything that's happening. So there's a link that is posted in the social media your respective social media platform that you are watching, where you can sign up for. The information is not sent on to anyone else, but you're added to a stateside list, which every 2 weeks I believe on Mondays, we shoot for Mondays to get kind of the update email. So if I were you, highly recommend signing up for that. And so we'll kind of just, jump into a little bit of a Lansing update. And then just like we normally do, we'll bring Hannah on from my team at the end to answer any questions that came up during our coffee chat here. And we'll kind of go through all of those. But we also try to mix things up, with the weather getting better and the COVID numbers getting better. I'm very hopeful that our next coffee hour can hopefully be in person. So we'll kind of work through logistics on that and set up a time and location, or maybe even multiple times and locations to try to get these to be in person, hopefully. So just kind of quickly, kind of getting into the Lansing side. We're in the middle of a roughly 11-week stretch. I believe it's 11 weeks where we're kind of going every week without a break. And so it's good in terms of just productivity, able to build a routine and have a pretty set schedule in terms of, when we're going to be in Lansing and when we're meeting. Mother Nature had a little bit of input into that and caused, I think, a couple snow days along the way. But we are in the middle of a grind right now. With kind of taking care of some administrative stuff up front, preparing for budget conversations for next year. And then also, it's not a secret that 2022 is a campaign year. And so trying to get, as much done kind of ahead of that as well. So in early February, February 9th, Governor Whitmer gave her fourth State of the State address virtually, this time from Detroit Diesel's factory floor. So if anyone was able to tune in, that was a pretty cool backdrop just to see that. I thought it sent the absolute perfect message and broadcasted the perfect message outward about Michigan and just kind of where we're at with manufacturing and how we're ready for business and we're ready to kind of take on that next wave of automation and mobility. And in that, she outlined a number of proposals to continue to move Michigan forward. If anyone saw the news, Michigan's economy was actually rated the best economy of all states in the country. And so it's really exciting for where Michigan's at and kind of the future, what the future looks like here. But the underlying message was clear, something that we've been saying for a while. We need to work together. Republicans, Democrats, when they come together, Michigan's going to win. There's just so much that our state has to offer. And so just really excited for us to, continue to find ways to put that all together. But back to the governor's address, she did kind of outline her proposal, which would be the largest spending plan in Michigan history, a $74.1 billion budget, which is fueled a lot by the surplus and influx of federal stimulus money that we're getting from the fallout of the pandemic. And so obviously being extremely strategic in this unique time with the amount of money that's available. And so, just I guess a couple highlights without going through everything. The kind of the biggest thing was expanding that earned income tax credit, or the EITC. That is a tax credit for lower middle class workers. And so expanding that will, again, kind of drive a larger middle class and really stand up for working families here in Michigan. So we were really excited to see that. Eliminating the income tax exemption for all retirement accounts, including pension, IRAs, and 401ks. That's all, stuff that we want to see. Another thing that for anyone who's talked to me for more than 5 minutes knows about my excitement of the auto industry and electric vehicles. And so the governor announced a special EV tax credit, a state credit of $2,500, I think $2,000 for the vehicle, $500 for the installation of a charger at home. So that was all music to my ears. Also, caps on insulin costs. Can't speak any louder to just how important that would be. And then money and funding for mental health professionals. So, I think we're planning on getting into that a little bit later. today, but that's all something that we need to be addressing here in Michigan. I know I've had a number of conversations, and really a day doesn't go by without me talking to someone who is expressing their need to expand healthcare services here in Michigan. So excited to see all of that. And there's plenty more. I was actually really excited. I think there's about 1.5 billion for bonuses for educators to address the school staffing shortages that exist. 500 million for corporate incentives to lure large scale investments. And there's been a lot of conversations in the news about kind of how we use that money. But the reality is that with the changing economy and industry, we are hoping to attract new talent to call Michigan home, to make sure that Michigan stays the epicenter of automotive, kind of in that future evolution. And so I think those are all going to be strategic in making that happen. But more importantly, another 250 million to expand broadband access in Michigan. Talk about infrastructure. It's obviously more than roads. And so making sure that every Michigander has access to high-speed internet is a conversation that we've been having for far too long. And then another 500 million for water infrastructure improvement. So lots of proposals, a very strategic budget, and the process is just getting started for the next fiscal year. And so we will be having a lot of conversations and back and forth between the legislature and the administration to kind of find that sweet spot with the budget. But again, we are uniquely positioned right now with the amount of COVID dollars that are being left and unused. And so we absolutely need to get that money out to our communities and invest in our communities and our working class to make sure that Michigan, again, is just continuing to move forward and responding, extremely well from the pandemic. So I know we had some questions last time in our coffee hour about just how exactly the budget process works. And so this is still one of my first times going through it. So I'm not the best expert, but we did do some digging and kind of at a high level. The governor has posted her recommendations. And so then we're going to kind of move on to the next steps. And there are some graphics out there that kind of highlight this. We will try to, I think we've put them out in that same newsletter I referred to, that biweekly newsletter. So we will try to get those graphics out because that might do a better job illustrating what's happening than me trying to verbally describe this. But now the ball is kind of in the legislator's court to form, our proposal of what that'll look like. And then this is a long process. This isn't going to happen in a week or two. This will likely take us to the beginning or midsummer to figure this out. And then, with negotiations just starting, over the next couple of months, the governor and the legislator will continue to kind of work through it and figure out a final budget. So I personally don't sit on the appropriation side in the legislator who handles kind of most of the budget conversations, especially up front. And so I'm on the policy side. And I know that's a conversation we've had in the past. And so we don't get involved as early in the budget process. And so we will be, but that being said, we're still coordinating with our colleagues and expressing our priorities to make sure that they're included in the budget. But we count on our colleagues to kind of see those through, and then we will see after they have their first version available of where everything. But the budget process is something it's been around forever. It's something we go through every year. This year's not any different. So it'll be a pretty circular process that just falls the same way it's done in years past. And so what we're looking forward to, hopefully it not being so contentious, just with all the variables that are out there, with the amount of surplus money that's out there, with the fact that it is a campaign year, and just, what have you, with all the partisan divide. We'd really, really love if we can kind of put our heads together and find a way to get the money that Michigan has out to, our Michiganders here around the state. So we will keep everyone posted in terms of how budget negotiations negotiations are going. And so, we're going to kind of quickly continue to go through the Lansing side of things, and then we will open up to a Q&A. And I know that there's a few questions that have already come through, so we want to be mindful to get to those questions. I personally don't love this beginning portion, which is just me talking forever. So I'm sorry if my voice speeds up because we try to get through this. But just as I was mentioning earlier, just kind of highlighting some of the bigger issues that we're kind of working through and dealing with in Lansing. Mental health is obviously one of those that's on that list. Whether that's private or public sector accessibility. Just affordability and accessibility of mental health care. It's just not where it needs to be, unfortunately. There's a number of proposals out there in terms of how we fix this. For me, I'm going to side with, and I'm always going to defer to what is going to improve patient outcomes the best. And we will, make sure that we champion those ideas again, because, it's long overdue, especially with the effects that COVID has had on students and just everyday families. And so it's not lost on me in the need to prioritize mental health, and we will be fighting for a lot of that. There's also, unfortunately, a shortage of providers in the pipeline. So we want to, I do support the idea to expand the Michigan State Loan Repayment Program, which will hopefully, allow us to hire more counselors and social workers and psychologists, especially in public schools and school campuses, and to, implement, ideas like the MI Healthy Communities proposal. And so if we can increase capacity, especially in our schools, I think that would be a very, very strong initiative and a great place to start in terms of how we do this. But I know that there's a lot to done. Everyone needs to continue to come to the table here and have an earnest conversation, especially during the budget process, to make sure that we pass a budget that reflects these values, and to make these critical investments that that we can no longer continue to just punt down the road or just blatantly ignore. And so, a huge piece of this is just ensuring that our public schools get the resources that they need. And I know the governor's proposal did a lot. I won't kind of continue to belabor the points of the governor's budget. Those are available online for anyone who wants to look at those a little bit more closely. But there is a record amount of funding for these programs in that budget, and the state has the money. So it's absolutely the right thing to do to continue to, again, champion those ideas to get resources, mental health resources, and just resources to public schools. And so that is all welcome news by me. And then kind of switching gears a little bit, our office gets a lot of inquiries about the roads. And so it is that time of year again, as some people call it, the fifth season of Michigan, right between winter and spring, otherwise known as pothole season. I'm driving around here locally in the district, and seems like I'm playing dodgeball at times when I'm driving, just trying to avoid all these potholes on the roads. And so I completely get it. The good news is that with the budget that I've highlighted, for the last couple of minutes here, there's a number of unique opportunities available to the legislator in the state budget to get some money across. So the governor herself has proposed a $1 billion increase on top of the normal transportation budget, specifically for repairs of roads, and to increase spending on transit and other programs. So that money could be used, obviously, is much needed across Michigan to get money to those roads. I personally am working extremely hard to try to bring money home, specifically for key projects here within the district to repair roads. It's something I've been focused on. It's just, again, coming from the automotive industry, a large part of what I talk about in Lansing is kind of the future of the industry. And so we can't, on one hand, talk about how we want Michigan to be the epicenter of innovation, and then on the other hand, have broken roads and energy blackouts, because those things aren't going to mesh well with each other. So really excited to try to continue to find ways to get money to fill the potholes and to fix the roads. As simple as that. So the formula is not very hard in terms of what we need to do. And so, I will continue to keep that as a priority and making sure that we're making key investments into our infrastructure. Again, that's more than just roads, but it includes high-speed internet and building out electric vehicle chargers, and just, again, securing our pipes, just making sure that Michigan's modernizing across the board. And so, the budget has a number of other initiatives. I was a part of a package, a bipartisan package earlier this year that expanded childcare access. The budget also has a lot of money dedicated to childcare services. So that was great to see that some of our bills did help kind of pave a path to key investments in the childcare sector. As a father of two small boys in childcare, I know how costly it is. I know how broken that system can be. And so I'm take that with more of a personal angle, just seeing that I'm dealing with it up front. So look forward to kind of seeing what we can get done there as well. But the key is also to continue to find ways to strategically fund these initiatives long term. We have this unique opportunity of having a bunch of money up front. So we will do our best to make strategic investments, but we also want them to be sustainable. So it's not just like, hey, you got a little bit of money in 2022 or 23, and you're not going to get anything for the next 10 years. So really, really want to find sustainable ways to maintain these programs. And that's what we'll be doing for the next few months as we wrap up the budget process. So, yeah, so sorry, that was kind of a lot. The next coffee hour will be in March. We're working through the logistics, as I mentioned earlier. We'll see if it's in person or virtual. I'm kind of hoping the team can find a way to get this in person. But as always, stay tuned to our social media channels for information on when that'll be, or sign up for that bi-weekly email, and you can get information as to what when the next coffee hour will be. But with that, I know I kind of went over there, but we're going to get into the Q&A portion, and we will just see how many questions we can get through. So I'm going to be bringing on Hannah from my team.
Hi, how are you?
Hey, Hannah. Thanks for joining.
Okay, just a reminder to everybody that if you have any questions or comments on anything going on, feel free to drop those in the chat for us on any of the platforms you're joining from, and we will be able to address them. We did have a couple of questions that were pre-submitted via our e-news, and the first question is in regards to the pension tax. It says, what is being done to repeal the pension tax in Michigan? Are you supportive of repealing it?
Yes. I mean, to answer that concisely, yes, I'm absolutely in support of repealing it. I know a number of my colleagues, even before my time, have been working hard to try to get that done for years. And so I'm also supportive of that initiative. Again, the governor did propose that. And so right now, given our budget stands, now is the time to really have that conversation. For a little bit of history, back in 2011, a law enacted under former Governor Snyder removed the total and partial tax exemptions for income from public and private sector pensions. And so people born before 1946 were exempted from that change, but there was a phase-in for all their seniors, and so that's existed since then. And so, as we mentioned, the governor proposed repealing that pension tax. And so, that's something that I would like to see happen. And then again, as mentioned in the kind of the opening part, I'm also supportive of the EITC expansion, which would again just assist moderate income individuals and working families across Michigan to see that those earnings increase. And so I think those are both great initiatives and something that we should absolutely be talking about in the budget negotiation.
Great. And we have had numerous emails to our office from our amazing teachers in the district, either teachers that work in House District 21 or teachers that live in House District 21 and teach in other districts. They have been emailing about so many things, but a couple of questions have come in that they want answered in regards to some news they've seen in relation to the governor's budget and what the proposals are there for teachers and educators and what was included in that.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's great that someone brought that up. There's a lot to get through, but first and foremost, I think it's very important that I take a minute just to thank everyone who is a teacher right now in this environment. The profession, is literally under assault, and it's a really hard time to be a teacher. Thank you for the sacrifice that you make. Thank you for what you do for our kids. I know how hard it is, and so I'm proud to have the support of a number of education associations around the state. And so I take a great amount of respect, pounding the table pretty hard for our education community. And so I want to see us get as much resources and money to the public school funds as possible. And that, includes increasing compensation for our teachers, and just finding ways to restore respect to that profession. And so, I know that there's a lot of different proposals out there. And so if anyone has, specific questions, please feel free to reach out to our office. But, I know the governor's proposal included nearly an 8% increase in K-12 funding the next fiscal year, which is great because it's building off of last year's negotiated budget, which was historic in itself. And so that's even getting any better. And so that would mean, $18.4 billion to public schools, which is roughly a $600 million increase. And then that per pupil basic funding allowance would raise it by about $435 per pupil, crossing into over $9,000. I believe $9,135 per student, which is historic. And so, part of the issue, and I'm not going to try to pretend like I understand school funding thoroughly. It's like an encyclopedia, the formula, but some of the issues are pretty evident. And one of them is just the disparity that exists between the well-funded districts and the districts that aren't funded so strongly. And so what the governor's plan has done over the last couple of budget cycles is continue to close that gap to find parity between districts, but then also supporting, a weighted formula of finding ways to give money to categoricals that need more money. Whether that's schools that are economically disadvantaged or have, higher cases of special education or technical education for students. And so, it's unfortunately really hard to paint with broad strokes how we do this. So you want to find that balance of making sure that you're giving every district what it needs, but also just raising the bar across the board to make sure that all districts are getting at least, closer to the amount that they need. And so, for me, there was a research collaborative that was put together with some of the best and most brilliant minds in education in Michigan a few years ago, and they came out with their budget recommendations and just actually recommendations across the board of what's needed in education. And so I actually have that printed out on my desk, and it's something I look at from time to time to make sure that we are fighting for those things. And so, there's record amounts of funding that are headed to public education. It doesn't mean that we're doing enough. We can absolutely continue to do more, but we want to continue to make investments, to make sure that schools are getting everything they need. But again, for specific incentive programs, please feel free to reach out to the office, and we'll make sure that we answer those.
Great, that is perfect. We do have another question that was pre-submitted, but we also have a question here in the chat from Rebecca, and it says, I've read about a cut in home care benefits since no-fault reform has passed. Are there plans on addressing that?
Yeah, so this is something that has been very much. We've had a lot of conversations about this. The auto no fault reform passed in before my time. I think it was 2008 or 2018 or 2019. And so there's been a lot of changes since that passed. And you're absolutely correct. The bill drastically affected, home care benefits. And so I think from what I've been told, approximately 18,000 Michigan residents are currently receiving some sort of care, whether that's rehabilitation service to 24/7 attendant care for injuries sustained in those tragic car accidents. And so there's currently a lot of plans in place to try to address this because the reimbursement rates, I guess, depending on who you ask, but in my opinion, the reimbursement rates are not working the way that they intended. And actually, a number of providers have been forced to go under. But more importantly, a lot of people in need of these services are not able to get it. And then when you compound all of that with the labor shortages that exist and just the price to pay people to work going up, it's really, really hard for this to all work out. And so reform is absolutely needed. There's a lot of people working on it. I know that there's been at least two different attempts to address these. There's a couple different House bills out there. House Bill 4486, Senate Bill 314, and those were introduced. And so I think the bills offer a little bit more of a technical fix to the provider fee schedule, that are cost neutral, and it would enable continued access to care without sacrificing cost controls. And so, look, I'm absolutely supportive of finding ways to address these problems. There's people up all the time advocating for these issues in Lansing. I've had a number of conversations. It breaks my heart every time I hear some of the stories of just people that are going through this process. And so, just receiving access to quality home care service and caregivers, should be without question and enact. And so it's something that we need to figure out. So a lot of conversation happening about that. And again, there are a number of bills trying to address the issue out there.
Okay, we have one last question that was pre-submitted. Another question related to a lot of correspondence our office has been having. The question is in regards to your work on the school safety task force and the gun violence. It says, what are some policies or bills being proposed in Michigan right now to address gun violence? We know that there's a lot of stuff circulating, but in terms of what is actually, maybe being considered or what is just kind of sitting in a committee right now.
Yeah. So, for those that don't know, and again, thank you for this question. For anyone who has been following me or got to know me on the campaign trail last year, should know that, this is an issue that is very personal to me. My family is unfortunately survivors of gun violence. And, more personally, just seeing kind of my younger sons start the education process with active shooter drills and just the fact of knowing that schools are not safe anymore has just really affected me and just led me to just want to fight for common sense gun reform. And so it's an issue that I'm very loud and proud about. And I think that there's a lot of ways to address this. And as Hannah mentioned, I'm extremely honored to be appointed to the School Safety Task Force, which is made up of 8 individuals, 4 Democrats and 4 Republicans from across the state. What's unique about this is that we're all kind of bringing our diverse perspective, whether that's cultural or geographic. There's just, Michigan's, again, just a very diverse state. And so, and this conversation really means something different to all 8 of us. And so for me, I would love to see us move the needle on this conversation. I think there's a number of ways we can make schools safer. Some of those ideas can be done without addressing the gun conversation. But the fact of the matter is that, there are more active shooter incidents at schools in America than any other country. And so without getting, too political or caught up in that discourse, there's a lot of common sense solutions that are out there that don't infringe on anyone's right to bear arms. They're just common sense solutions that are widely supported by people on both sides of the aisle that can help hopefully curb these incidents and hopefully stop them before they happen. And at the end of the day, that's what's most important, is restoring that safety net around our schools. So, like when I dropped my kids off at the bus stop, I'll never forget the exchange that I had with a fellow parent who mentioned that, this may be the last time we ever see our kids. And so that's not the sentiment that anyone should be having when you're sending your kids to school. Schools, are a place that should be fun, an environment that should be safe. That's how we had the privilege to grow up that way. And I want to fight every day to make sure that we can hopefully bring that back for our kids and future generations. And so, but just more on the legislative side, there's been a number of packages that have been introduced and ideas that are out there in terms of kind of steps that we can take, like requiring background checks or safe storage legislation, keeping guns away from domestic abusers, tougher penalties for drive-by shootings that injure kids, limiting magazine capacities. There's all sorts of ideas out there. It's my understanding that none of these packages have received a hearing, which would be kind of the first step in the process of seeing these through. But again, I am broadly speaking, I want to see us kind of move the needle on this conversation. I think it's long overdue. There's definitely no shortage of ideas on things that we can do. It's more about just hopefully trying to get these across the finish line with the ideas that we already have. But with that, as I was talking about the school task force that I'm on, we are canvassing for ideas. So if people do have ideas in terms of steps that we can take to help make our schools safer, please submit your ideas. We have a website which will include the link to, and it just takes a couple seconds. You can go in and just submit your feedback, and I would love to hear from you. But a lot going on there, and I will be fighting every day to make our schools safer.
So I think that's all the questions that we have today. I'm not seeing any more in the chat. So with that, I think we can wrap up a few minutes early today.
Yeah. All right, great. Well, thank you everyone for joining. And I think, sorry, we ran a little over here, but again, if you have questions, please feel free to reach out to our office. We do a great job trying to get back to everyone who reaches out. And hopefully we can kind of get one of these coffee hours in person soon. Would love to see everyone. Hope everyone's staying safe and warm. And please feel free to reach out if we can ever help. Thank you, everyone.